Hey, gang, before we dive in, we want to share a quick note with our listeners today. So, today's episode is not about promoting a political party, an agenda, or an ideology. It's about acknowledging how outside policies, mandates, and political decisions, regardless of where they come from, those things are showing up in the daily lives of educators and school leaders. Our focus is not on debating politics. Our focus is on people. We are looking at how unspoken pressures affect trust, morale, professionalism, and ultimately the culture and climate of our schools. These are real experiences. Educators are living them every day, and ignoring them doesn't make them disappear. What it does is it just makes them harder to manage. So this conversation is meant to be thoughtful, respectful, and human-centered. Our goal is to create space for reflection, understanding, and growth, because strong culture and climate requires honest conversations, even when they're uncomfortable. We believe we can talk about hard things without tearing people down, and we can acknowledge reality while still standing tall for educators and students.
Welcome to the School Culture and Climate Show. Hosted by Steve, a passionate advocate for positive school culture and climate, together with Megan. Join us as we explore strategies, share success stories, and provide actionable tips to improve the culture and climate in your school.
Hey gang, this is Stand Tall Steve.
And I'm Megan Dede.
And we're here for the School Culture and Climate Show. Now, every school has an elephant in the room. Now, not a problem with the instruction. We're not talking about a lack of effort, but pressures coming from outside our walls that are changing how we teach, lead, and show up every single day. Policies don't stay on paper, y'all. They walk into classrooms, and when we don't talk about what's really impacting people, it doesn't go away. What happened is it leaks into culture. In this episode, we're naming the elephant in the room, how politics and policy are impacting school culture and what we can do instead. So
Absolutely.
yeah, let's get ready to giddy up and roll with this one. And I understand with what we do here for the Culture and Climate Show, we talk about ways to improve culture and climate. We identify some things that are issues and problems that are within the building, within the classroom, within the district. But these are the outside things, Meg, right?
Yes, yeah, it is. It's the elephant in the room that's just kind of lingering that no one really talks about. But we want to talk about it. Maybe we just don't know how. We just don't know how to talk about
We
that.
don't know how to talk about it. So we're going to hit this. All right. So listen in, gang. So the first thing that we need to do is we got to name it. We have to name the elephant in the room. And his name is not Seymour. His name is not Ralph or George. But the question that kind of anchors this part of naming the elephant in the room is, what are educators experiencing day to day that isn't being openly acknowledged? What is it that we're experiencing day to day that we're just not openly acknowledging? What are your thoughts on that first, Meg?
I'm thinking that, teachers are feeling that in the classrooms, when we're making our lesson plans, when we're having conversations, the relationships that we have with each other, and we're not openly talking about the jobs that we're coming in and doing, the veteran teachers, the new teachers coming in, and some of the things that are happening, like I'm even thinking just right now, thinking that are we professionals? And that hurts as an educator. Like, yeah, I do feel very professional in my work, and I work very hard at that. So how do we address some of those things?
Yeah, because some of those outside things that are happening, I mean, we're talking about policies and whether they're true or not true. All right, it's real news or it's not real news. But one of the biggest things right now is, where they're taking the possibility of teacher credentials and minimizing it, like minimizing it significantly and saying that we're not professionals. And I kind of understand they're trying to get more people to come into the profession and things like that. But by doing that, that reduces, especially when you talk about your veteran teachers, it makes them feel like, well, what have I been doing all these years? And then when you got new people coming in, it's like, what's the level of respect that you have for the profession if it's not? And I understand they're doing this in other professions as well. But the fact is like we hear these things, We have to feel these things. But yet when we come into the school and we go in front of our students, we have to pack it away. We kind of have to pack it away. We have to
Yeah.
continue to do what it is that we need to do.
Well, okay, here's this. As a classroom teacher, second, third grade, elementary, middle school, high school, wherever you're at, and you have life things that happen, right? Something didn't go well in the morning, things are happening with family, whatever's going on. And a lot of times what happens is we have to put that all away and we have to teach our kids, right? We have to put that emotion aside, be there for the kids. But what is great about that is some of those life things we can talk about at lunch or maybe during planning time with our teacher friends. We can get some of that out to continue to move through the days. Whereas some of these things that we're talking about today, maybe we don't know how to talk about them or that we're allowed to talk about some of those things. And that can really feel heavy when you're trying to be there for your students.
And what is the culture like in your school that you just said you're not able to talk, you're not allowed to talk about it? So let's say that you find space during the school day at some point to be able to talk about it. Is there a culture where it is safe to do that? Is there a culture where everybody understands what it is that's coming from the outside, whether it's personal, whether it's policies that are coming through from the state house, from the national, the rhetoric that is out there, the different political views that are there? Is there a space in your school, in your building, in your district, where it is okay to have that conversation? So now I lean over to the leadership side of this, okay? With the leaders feel sometimes that they're caught between compliance and care. Now, when I do my speaking, I talk a lot about compliance versus commitment. I'm talking about compliance and care. Caring for your staff to help foster an environment where they feel safe enough to talk about the things that are happening to them mentally because of the outside forces that are coming through. So leaders, what are you doing with that? Because I get it. Leaders use like, well, we have compliance. We have things that need to be done. And here's the thing. A lot of leaders go so far to praise the fact that that teachers and educators and staff can suppress what's going on and still focus in on what's being done, needs to be done in the classroom. They hail them.
It's almost expected, to be a good teacher, to be
a good teacher.
Yeah, to be a good teacher, you walk in, you put whatever just happened aside and you teach your kids. It feels so heavy, and that stress, right, becomes that cultural tension that's happening.
Yes. And the political environment that we're living in now, right? That comes in so heavily strong. And I get it, gang. You don't want to bring politics into the school. I get that. You don't even want to bring it to the Thanksgiving dinner table, let alone the school. But to ignore the fact that it's even there, to ignore the fact that people aren't feeling it, to ignore the fact that it is not influencing the way that our educators, and not just the anybody who works in a school, how they're moving forward, that is a shame. Let's not do that. So as far as identifying the elephant, that's what we're talking about here, gang. That's the elephant that we're talking about. All the outside forces, the political environment, the personal events that are coming in that are affecting the overall culture, your performance, what it is that you're doing in a school, and we're not taking the time to recognize that it's there. I'm not saying to forego your instruction or forego what's necessary, but developing an environment where that can be addressed.
Absolutely.
Now, from here, I think that the next part is how that silence that's happening because of the elephant in the room, we're not addressing it, how that impacts the culture and climate. So I'm going to pose this question. When we don't talk about what's affecting people, it doesn't go away. It leaks into culture. So therefore, how can we handle this? How can we do this? And also just going into the teacher's experience as well. How does that show up in the classroom and in relationships with students? What do you do as a teacher when these policies affect your work?
Well, and I think, you say it well. When we don't talk about it, it affects people, right? It still sits there. It's not going to go away. It's leaking into our classrooms. And then a part of that, what happens is our educators are stopping to take some of those risks. They're not taking the risks in their teaching when things come down, when there's that stress level that you just kind of go through your day, and things are happening. When you don't feel like you have the training or the support or the knowledge to handle some of these things that are going on, you just kind of go through the motions of it. And then you're kind of losing some of that culture and that climate in your classroom, which then of course feeds back out into your building.
Right. You try to be safe, right?
Yes.
And there's something to be good about being safe. All right. Put your head down, get to work, be safe. But when you're safe, then it goes back to what I was saying before, compliance versus commitment. You're just being compliant. When you're being safe, you're staying in compliance role. You're not taking chances. You're not being creative. You're not going to get the most out of your students. You're not going to get the most out of your experience as an educator. All right. One of my past episodes, I talked about the difference between job, career, and calling. And if you're just hitting and being safe, you're staying in job mode.
Yes.
You're just coming in and doing what's necessary. You're not, if you want to go to career mode where you're trying to move yourself forward and learn more, you can't do that just not taking the space to and just being compliant with what it is that you're doing. And especially if this is your calling. If it is really your calling, what it is, this world of education and learning, you go on in spite of it. But these outside things are really messing you up.
Yeah. And it comes from, just going with the flow, staying safe is you're not taking the risk to be creative. You're not bringing that joy into your classroom or into your building. And your students are feeling that. As much as we think that we're putting it aside and we're not wearing it on our face or on our sleeve, our students can feel what's happening, even when we're not talking about it. So providing a safe environment or a place to have conversations about things that are going on in the outside world would really help, I think, educators that are needing to be there for a classroom full of kids.
Yes. Well, let me dive over, because I got like 3 things that just popped in my head all of a sudden. There's a leadership side. Remind me to dump on the leadership side. But I want to go to, as an educator, all right, have you ever had a tough day? Something's been bothering you. Maybe it was something at home, family. Maybe it was policy that came through that you're just like, oh my gosh, again. Maybe you're hearing something in the news, something dramatic. And then a student comes up to you. You think that you're good. You're the good teacher. You're shoving it down and you're coming and doing your best. And a student walks over and says, are you okay? Has anyone ever done that to you?
Yes.
They know.
They know. They can feel. They've spent how many days and months with you. They know. Yes. You're their little, it's a little family. And I think the way to handle that is like, yeah, I'm doing okay. We try to, everything's great. Feeling a little tired today.
Don't
ignore
that elephant. Right there, the kids saw the elephant.
Yes, right there.
They saw the elephant. There's a huge, giant, polka dot, green and orange elephant standing there with his hands on his hips with giant tusks.
Yes.
And the kid came up to you and said, what is that?
You good?
And you're just like, we're good. There's nothing there. There is. There is. All right. So this episode isn't about necessarily, it's a little bit about mental health, but we're not talking about going to get therapy and all of that. But the fact of ignoring the giant, whatever colors I call it, but pink and orange, giant tusked elephant there. No.
Yeah.
Now to the leadership thing where I said, I'm not going to forget about the leadership thing. As a leader, right? Again, we used to talk about how we tout and we praise teachers for putting their head down and just moving forward. You have to create space. All right. When things come out, like let's say there's something in policy in the news, like Department of Ed was closing up, right? They have that. There was a whole thing where teachers are not going to be valued as much because their credentials don't mean as much. All right. And there's a whole thing that goes on with getting loans and all of that. There's all of that. All right. We hear that. We see that. As a school leader, okay, first of all, be properly informed. Don't ignore it. Don't act like it's not something. Well, I'm here to just shut the doors to the school. We do what we got to do. No, it's still coming in. You need to make space for that. All right? Possibly reach out to your staff and say, hey, there's some things that are going on in the news. We need to have some space. After school today, me and the school counselor, we're going to be in room 107. If you want to come by and chat it up, we'll be there for half an hour. Now, some may ignore that. Some may come. None may come. But the fact is they hear you as a leader taking the moment to saying, look, we get it. I know. I want this to be a space that this can happen, that we're okay with this. All right? That's what it is. And I get it. Sometimes you even have upper administration that says to you, no, you can't do it. Hey, tonight at 7:30 p.m., we're going to jump on a Zoom. Here's the link for us to get this out so that when we come in, we can zone in, we can focus in, we can do what we need to do. And don't make it a session where everybody just complains. That's not what it is. But if you have a half decent or a quality school psychologist, counselor, something who can help guide that conversation, or at least the avenue to have that there you got something.
Yeah.
How would that feel as an educator, you know?
To have a space to know that you could go be in a space to talk about it. And then also I'm thinking it's not a one-time deal. It's not a staff meeting in August, the first one coming out saying, hey, I know some things are coming down, but we'll be all right. If you ever want to talk, my door is open. You know, that's like, I don't know if I should come talk to you or not about this yet, but to do what you just said, a Zoom, or, hey, we're going to be open here, and to have that repeatedly come up, you know, makes me feel like I can come to the leadership and have an honest conversation about what's going on and how to move forward with that.
Right. And again, it goes to what you said, more than once, repetition. And I've said so many times, that's what culture is. Culture is the repetition of actions and behaviors over time. If that is the continual options provided to your staff, provided within your school, then that says, hey, that's who we are. This is what we're about. This is something that we can do so that we can feel better about that.
Yeah.
I mean, because, all right, I'm going to back up a little bit here. Megan, when you heard about the current administration and what they were saying as far as relates to teacher credentials, what were your thoughts? I mean, immediately, yours and other teachers.
You know, my immediate thought was, man, how many times are we going to get knocked down? You know, how I just feel like we started somewhere, right? And then we just keep getting these things that are coming up, and people are saying the things, and we're not being valued as much. And I try to stay away from that because, you know, going into education, obviously we're not there for the money. We're there for the kids. We love it with our souls. But when it's not being recognized as a profession, or not being recognized as this, or we're not being provided the whatever it might be, it hurts. And it hurts. I know that my educator friends, you know, they're working so hard, and they're providing everything they can for these students and for each other. And it just feels so heavy sometimes. And being able to chat about it and with people that understand, you know, I could talk to my husband about the things, but he's not in education. And when you're not an educator, sometimes you just don't know. You just don't know. And they're supportive, but to be able to have the same people in the room that understand your feelings, and you can find kind of a common ground and how to move forward with that, it feels less heavy. And then I can be there for my students. So when they do ask me, hey, are you okay? I can say, hey, I'm doing okay, but I'm really excited to be here today with you because I've created this really great lesson for us, or this unit, and my joy is coming back and my creativity is there, and I'm feeling, you know, inspired with my kids. Just being able to give them the space to do that.
You hit so many awesome things what you just said right there. Oh my goodness. Number one, you acknowledge the fact that it's heavy. You acknowledge the fact that it hurts, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum of whatever it might be. It's heavy, it hurts, we keep getting knocked down. The next thing that I think is really great that you said is having somebody to people to talk to who get it. Nothing against the spouses and the friends and the family who are not educators. They're trying.
Yes.
Well, sometimes they're not, but but most of them are trying, but they just don't get it. And what do? We pop off. We zap off sometimes to them because they don't get it. I can't blame you for that. You don't get it. I could try to educate you, and once you're educated, and if you do understand and you're still acting like you're doing, well, then we got a problem. But that's what it is knowing that you have a place that can happen, and it's not just all complaining. It's just understanding. And then the last thing that you talked about, which I thought was great, was you talked about that student that comes to you, hey, are you okay? And you're like, you have a space that you can do those things so that you can then focus on the positive. Like, look, I still got this great lesson. Focusing on the things that are positive, that are great, that are good about education, so that you can keep moving on and doing the great things and not just go to compliance mode and prevent yourself from doing it. So when you have that space to talk to people about what is going on, the world and all the things, and leaders step in and make that environment true, don't just sit there and complain. Talk about the good stuff that's happening. Lift each other up. Help each other out. Notice what the elephant is in the room. It says, yes, elephant, I see you. I got it. But with that said, we know that we're good at this. We know we can make these things happen. I know that I can help you with your lessons even better. I know that you can do this, that, and the other, all those different pieces, and just ease off some of that heaviness. You can lift something heavier. You can lift up that elephant if you have more people grabbing a hold of it to try to pick it up.
Yes, that teamwork.
That
Absolutely.
teamwork, that's what it's all about. Man, oh, that's good. That is good. So here's the thing. The things that we could be doing instead of, ignoring the elephant. Other things that we can do instead of just going into compliance mode. And just to kind of recap some of those things, it's acknowledging the reality without politicizing it. We can recognize the elephant itself without jumping into a whole bunch of issues with policies and politics and all those kind of things. Look, we have a lot of teacher unions and organizations and stuff, and that's what their job is to do. And we can do that. We can see that it is. We can acknowledge it, but not politicizing it. And we can create those safe spaces for dialogue, for us to talk about things. And for the school leaders, lead with clarity, lead with empathy, lead, not compliance, but care.
Yes.
How are you caring for your staff, right? And caring for your staff isn't just bringing in some sweet treats. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say that. Like, you can't just bring in donuts and say, hey, there's donuts in the lounge. I'm here for you. Like really showing, when you're talking about showing up and giving a safe space to have a conversation. Donuts are great, but they don't always fix the problem.
Oh, yeah, bring the donuts. Yeah, bring the donuts.
Yeah, so that add to that.
Add to that. Add to it. Right? Get some, you know what? Here's the thing, gang. All right. AI is in our world right now, leaders. All right. Go to AI, say, hey, this is what I know of my staff. These are some things that are coming out, within policy, within the world, the things that there are issues in dealing with. What are some questions, some open-ended questions that I can pose to them to help spark some of that conversation with them, or to help them move through that? Drop that into some AI. See what comes out. You might end up getting some conversation starters, some methodologies, some practical leadership tips in that. All right. I'm going to be honest with you, gang. I've used ChatGPT like a champ, right? Meg and I call it Chatty G. Chatty G is our friend. So you could even put in there, thinking like Stand Tall Steve, because I have a lot of what it is that I do in there. I know it's in there. Right? Climate and culture specialist, leadership and climate and culture specialist.
Yes.
And then put that information in there and see what comes out. All right? Also, within this episode, in the chat, tell us, what are your thoughts? How are you feeling? We'll get back to you. We'll connect with you. Make sure you like, subscribe, and all that with this, but put that into the chat so we can come back and forth with it a little bit. But also, what else that we can do as far as it relates to what we should be doing instead with this?
And I
What else?
think a big piece is that we have to be able to focus what we have control over.
Hmm.
We don't have control over things that are happening out there. The policies are coming down, but what do we have control, and how can we move forward with what we have?
Hmm.
It relates to in the classroom. My leaders are telling me this is coming down. This is what we have to do. That's out of my control. But what I do have control over is what I'm doing in my classroom and how I'm focusing with my kids and what creativity I'm bringing in. And as leaders, I'm sure you feel the same way. You have things that are in your control and things that are completely out. And how do we
Yeah.
handle those?
How do you handle that? And we say this to our students: focus on what you can control. You
Yes.
can't worry about that girl over there or that boy. Same with you. Same with
Mhm.
us. And the last little bit, I think, is we have to strengthen those microcultures in the building. All right. We have all
Mhm.
little microcultures, your fifth grade team, your eighth grade team, your pre-K group, your band group, whatever it is. You have microcultures everywhere. Don't ignore those microcultures that are out there. Support all of them. All right. Know that it's out there. Have some of those conversations. Identify the elephant in the room. And it's not to make people uncomfortable, but to create a safe space so that they can feel like they are in a place that they can communicate and they can have that outlet in everything. All right.
Absolutely.
So, we may not control the policies, but we absolutely control the culture. So every school has an elephant in the room. They do, right? Ignoring it doesn't protect culture. It damages it. Culture and climate improve when people feel seen. They feel seen, they feel heard, they feel supported, even in hard seasons, especially in hard seasons, y'all. So that's how we stand tall through all of this. Hey, gang, hopefully this resonated with you well. Please like, follow, and subscribe throughout the rest of moving forward 2026. We have a really great setup of really a little bit deeper and hard-hitting episodes as it relates to culture and climate. We're still going to give you some great ideas and things like that, but we're going to go a little bit deeper with it. And we're also going to put in between some of these bigger issues, we're going to bring in some people. We're going to bring some people in from within our ranks, training for educators who want to speak professionally. We have some of those who we're going to be interviewing so we can highlight some of these other great educators that are doing some amazing things out in the world of education. All right?
Absolutely. Hey, thanks,
Absolutely.
Steve. This was great.
Thank you very much. And once again, everybody, please like, follow, subscribe if you want to have more of this great content. Take care. Have a good one.